Boom, welcome to Sollu Kaburz podcast. And this episode is about this great movie called The Great Indian Kitchen, a Malayalam movie. So before we get started with this podcast, I want you folks to do one thing for me. I want you to pause this podcast right here, go watch that movie. I'll put the links in the description. Go watch that movie and then come back. There are two reasons why you should do that. One is you would make sense of this podcast better. Number two, there will be spoilers, so I hope we don't spoil the movie for you. So pause, go watch the movie right there. It's a brilliant movie. I'm 100% sure you'll enjoy it, and then come back to this podcast. Now, I have my friend Ramya on this podcast. This podcast was long overdue. I had to do one with you. I couldn't pick a better topic. Thank you very much for
Thank
your
you so much.
presence.
Thank you.
And folks, she's a writer. She wrote for the Caravan magazine. She wrote for Open the magazine, and she's a brilliant writer. And she's one of the reasons why I stopped writing myself, because I used to write a silly blog and movies, and then I saw her writing and a few others, and I'm like, I'll never be as good as this. So just fuck it. So I'm like, I
That's
gave up.
very sweet. But I think let me just set the record straight. I used to write a long time ago, but then it just comes and goes. So I don't even think of myself as a writer. I think
Mm,
of myself as somebody, I don't know, it just keeps changing from time to time. So right now, if you had to introduce me as somebody who does a particular thing, I take care of a lot of cats. So I think
mm-mm.
that's really the truth of what I do these days. I take care of cats,
Sure. Well,
and
let's
yeah,
not
I'm
divert
about
from
to.
the fact that you're pretty great with your words and pen or
Thanks.
typewriter, whatever that you use it. And
Both.
yeah, we are talking about this movie, Ramya. Why are we talking about this? What is this movie about? Why should everyone watch it? Let's just jump into it straight away.
I
What is this movie
think
about, though? Very quickly.
right. Very quickly, I think this movie follows it's actually, I think it's set across a couple of months, I would say,
Hmm.
and it follows I don't know, the life of uh, this woman who
Hmm.
is nameless. All the characters in this movie are nameless. They could be anybody, anywhere. But in this movie particularly, I think there's somewhere in Kozhikode, in Kerala,
Sure.
and it's the story of this young woman who gets married, and so then, according to Hindu customs, she leaves the house she was born in, and then she goes to the husband's house, and everything is really new. And there are these hints that her family is not as conservative, and the family that she's come into is extremely orthodox. So what are the struggles that she goes through, and how does it all come to a head? What are the
Hmm.
decisions that she takes? What are the struggles, the big ones, the small ones? And finally, how
Sure.
yeah, I don't want to talk about how the movie ends, but definitely is about the story of this young woman,
Yeah.
and a
And
very small part of her life. Actually, we don't
yeah,
really know very much about her before
yeah.
the movie begins and after, but yeah, those couple of months is what we get to see.
And this is also the story of millions and millions of women around our
Definitely,
country,
definitely
across
feels
religion,
like it.
across caste,
Yeah,
and not only
yeah,
India. I mean, I'm sure it's across subcontinent as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
Why
That
is
is
that?
definitely
Why is that so? Why
right.
is that so?
So when I saw the movie, I could not see myself in it. I will be very honest,
Hmm.
because I grew up in a household where I was always, given the space to study,
Hmm.
go to school, not actually participate in housework. So I could actually not see myself as the character played brilliantly by Nimisha Sajan,
Hmm.
the young woman, the protagonist. But I could definitely see my mother in her.
Hmm.
I could see my mother's sisters in her. I could see, so many women that I know in her. And that is my perception,
Hmm.
that this movie can resonate with anybody who labors a lot without being thanked for it, without being compensated appropriately for it.
Right.
So
When I said what is this movie about, it is basically about the labor of Desi
yeah,
women in kitchen. Obviously, many women across the world,
yeah,
but we are talking about Desi women as Desi people.
yeah.
It talks
Hmm.
about the labor of Desi women in kitchen, right? What could be so laborious about kitchen? It's just cooking, right? Like, let me be at
That's
this devil's advocate of an asshole for every now and then in
you're
this
gonna
podcast.
right.
And
Okay, you're gonna be the asshole.
yeah,
Why, Najeeb? There are so many answers. Let's be nice together.
Yeah, sure, sure. No, but the question is, what can be so tough about cooking? It's cooking. I mean, yeah,
Mm,
women should cook and they'll cook. And what's so special about
right.
it? Why should we even talk about it? It's just so natural. I mean,
So
yeah.
the movie actually does a very brilliant job of showing you everything that goes on in the kitchen, right?
Mm,
And also, I'd like to correct you. It's not, even though the movie says Great Indian Kitchen, and even though most of the shots, like the movie runs for an hour and a half approximately,
mm,
and I would say that nearly 40 minutes the shots are just within the kitchen, right? And that's just a ballpark. I could be wrong,
yeah,
but actually the labor that this woman goes through, and also the character of Usha, the house help that comes in
sure.
from time to time, it's not just in the kitchen as well, right? They're cleaning the house also, and they're taking care of the compost pit as well. So it's not just the kitchen, but definitely the focus is on the kitchen.
Right.
And one of the things that I like about this movie is how in the beginning, I don't know if you remember the beginning of the movie, you
Right.
see all this brilliant food that's being made.
Yes.
No, and I don't even know the names of half of these foods, but they all look extremely tasty.
Mm,
So the movie transitions from showing you just how the end products,
yeah.
right? You just see the brilliant end products. You don't really see the labor that goes into it. But as the movie progresses, you see the sheer amount of work that goes into
Mm,
managing a
yeah.
kitchen, and how these managers, you could have the character of Nimisha. She's
Yeah.
one of the managers, but before Nimisha is this really interesting character of her Ataya,
Mother-in-law.
the mother-in-law,
Yeah.
right? And you have the character of Usha.
Mm,
All these three women, they are all managers in one sense,
sure.
but they're not compensated. They're not respected
Mm,
at all for the work that they do.
right.
So yeah, to answer your question, why is it so hard? So if you look at some of the shots, and most of the shots, at least in the beginning of the movie,
Then
are still shots.
forget about the shots, right? Like for example, I'm like I appreciate my mom's kebab. Like for example, oh mom chese pachadi. Oh my mom's kebabs. I have a
Right,
bunch of meat dumplings in my fridge that I all I have to do is just basically fry and eat, and I just they're
right,
so wonderful, and I just show off with my
yeah,
friends. What
right.
we don't care about our mom's pickles or pachadis or our meatballs, the wonderful balls is they took 5 hours to prepare that thing.
Not just that.
You
See,
know?
I was going to answer your question. What is it
Sure,
that goes into all of this, right?
sure.
So when you have to plan something, sometimes people are like, the woman asks, "What do you want me to make?"
Mm,
And the husband or the children, they're like, "Just make whatever." That is
mm,
the worst answer you could give somebody.
mm,
Somebody who has spent so much time just in the kitchen.
sure.
The most difficult part is preparation, to make something that is both nutritious and not boring,
The
because you
decision
make
fatigue
dosa.
of it.
Exactly, you make dosa 3 times a day and your husband and your kids are like, you know so, so number one, preparation, right? You need to have everything first. You need, and needs to go, nothing needs to be rotten. They all have to be in good condition,
Yeah.
especially in that household. They don't even have leftovers, right?
Oh my God. We'll talk
Yeah,
about that. Yeah.
yeah, they don't even, so everything has to be fresh,
Mm,
everything has to taste a certain way, and in that particular house the chutney needs to be ground by hand,
mm,
and the rice has to be cooked on the wood stove. So the first thing is, so much preparation has to go into it, and then comes the actual cooking. So when it comes to things like, especially like dosa and I don't know, other things, you have to be on your toes all the time, because you have to have like
every
hot
dosa should
dosa,
be spot on, right?
hot,
Yeah.
exactly, spot on and hot, right? So there's the preparation, there's the actual making of it, and then the part that the movie focuses on, the cleanup,
Mm,
which nobody seems to want to partake in, right? Because the men are so entitled that they leave such a horrible mess. And this I've seen in real life, especially with
of
drumsticks.
course.
Like, yeah,
Of
like people
course.
just, it's not really a man woman thing. I've seen all kinds of people do it, but the cleanup is always women,
Mm,
unless it's one exceptional man whom we are not going to talk about, because we're not talking about exceptional men, we're talking about all men, right?
right.
So the men and the women, they seem to eat a particular way, but the
Mm,
cleanup is always delegated to the women. So
mm,
also in households like these, where the men are so entitled and the women seem to just go with the flow, until somebody like Nimisha comes along,
mm.
the women always, it's just assumed that the first course goes to the man. He eats,
Yes.
makes a mess of it. There's no sambar left, there's no chutney left, and then the women come and then they eat the leftovers. So this is what goes into it, the prep, the cutting, the chopping, the cooking, the serving, and the
Yes.
cleanup.
And being the entitled man that I was before the lockdown, and I had to cook myself for in the lockdown, what I realized is the easiest part of cooking is the cooking itself. What comes before and after is shit.
Mm.
And the fact that we don't care, we are just out there where we are like mom ke haath ka khana प्यार से मिलता है, mom is making it out of प्यार, and we don't do anything in return because it's pyar. There is no return in pyar.
Yeah,
We
yeah.
brush that aside.
In fact, I had this one really intense conversation with my dad,
Hmm.
and my mom was also in the room at that time. I remember she was very quiet because whenever we have these political discussions, she becomes very quiet because she does not want us to argue.
Hmm.
And she always seems to know where the discussion is going to go, where we're just going to yell at each other.
Sure.
So then I was talking to my dad about how this work is thankless. This unpaid labor is really thankless, and he's like, not every kind of labor is compensated with money. Women do this for satisfaction. Yeah.
Let's talk about this. Okay, Kamal
Mm.
Hassan in Tamil Nadu bought a policy that homemakers, or what we call
Yeah.
housewives, should be compensated,
Mm.
and for which the most knowledgeable Kangana Ranaut tweeted that don't monetize our work and as
Right,
labor.
right, right. I remember this.
And
Yeah.
then and I checked with my mom as well. I'm like, don't you think you should be compensated? I'm like, no, like satisfaction is my salary. That's my salary, and
Mm.
I do it for that. So for me, doing your laundry, doing your dishes, and
Mm.
making food for you, making tasty food for you, and I kind of
Mm.
get the satisfaction because like when I cook for my family and they
Yeah.
all ate, I'm like, yo, this is cool. I'm glad that they enjoyed my food, right? But
Right.
that was just once. I didn't do that for 30 years, three
I
times a
just have
day.
one question. I just
Yeah.
have one question. Rick. What is your day job?
IT.
Can I pay you in satisfaction?
No,
Yeah.
I don't. No, I don't want to get paid. I mean,
I,
even if I get satisfaction for what I do,
is that enough? But no, you're
no,
satisfied. Come on.
no,
No, you're satisfied. Your life has a purpose now, which is to do your IT job.
exactly. So, but I need money, right? Like you know, I need fucking promotions and all that.
So
But
you see, there are two things going on here. Firstly, so this is very important because in the movie, the
hmm,
woman Nimisha's character is not allowed to have a job,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
She's not allowed to have a job. In that sense, she's not allowed to have financial independence.
yes,
She's not allowed to have money that can allow for her to do the things that she actually wants to do.
sure,
So she has to keep doing this if she wants to be fed and clothed,
yeah.
right? And that's the case with, I feel like that's the case with a lot of.
Let me bring my inner asshole here. So, why are women complaining for working, like housewife, homemaker women are complaining for working so much? You're getting shelter, you're getting food. What could go
What
wrong?
about respect? Okay, when you work in the office, you get money, you get something for the stuff that you've done.
Hmm,
It doesn't matter. I'm not even saying that you're getting a promotion, so it means you're respected. I don't give a shit.
hmm,
For the work that you put in, for the 8 hours that you're at work, you're being compensated for it, right? And this can actually go. This actually gives you respect in the society that you're a part of,
yeah,
because you're not. See, let's look at it this way. If you don't get money from any of the jobs that you do, you could have a main hustle, you could have a side hustle. Let us say that none of these things pay you any money,
hmm,
right? Everybody says, these are your duties as a man in society. We're not
yeah,
going to pay you. You just have to feel satisfied. At some point, you're going to be homeless. You're going to be on the street. How are homeless people treated? Not just in India, anywhere, especially in India. We treat
yeah,
them like shit,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Right. So nobody wants to be treated because there is no security there.
hmm,
If I have money, I feel secure.
yeah,
That's the reason why people work,
yeah,
right? To
sure.
assume that if you're married to a man, he'll automatically make you feel secure. That's a very precarious position that you're putting yourself in.
And
And,
also,
and, and
sure,
can I
sorry,
just
go on.
say one thing?
Sure, sure.
Earlier, you asked me what is this movie about,
Hmm,
and I was saying all sorts of things. But I think I can just sum it up in one word. Actually, this movie is about self-respect.
hmm,
This movie is about knowing that you're being taken for a ride, that you're being taken advantage of, right? That you put in so much work on a daily basis. You put in so much work, you're also raped, you're also sexually abused, you're not allowed, actually, there's no room for you to tell the truth, there's
Mm.
no room for you to express dissent, right? There's no room for you to even relax. Ironically, the only time she gets to relax is when she's on her period. But the thing
Yeah,
is, she can't do anything when she's on her period because she's shut up in a room. So
sure.
what kind of a relaxation is that, right? So what I'm trying to say is this movie is about self-respect. So for those women, there are lots of women like this because patriarchy can't just be run and managed by men. The
Mm.
women also are a part of it, and they're helping, they're enabling the men uphold it,
Sure.
right? So by not lending solidarity, by not realizing that they're being taken for a ride.
Mm.
You only realize that when you have self-respect, when you respect yourself as a creature
Yeah,
who has certain rights, the right to leisure, right? That's a very important right.
sure.
The right to have some free time for yourself, the right to be financially independent, the right to have some property that you can call your own, where you can
Mm.
feel safe in. When you don't have these things, when you don't recognize that you are a creature who has these rights, you feel very defensive when somebody comes up and says, this culture is really bad. You're like, what? This culture is great. Look at me. I have a man who takes care of me. Great, he takes care of you. But for how long? Where is the security in that?
Yeah. For people who compare this as a job, so let's just do that comparison for their sake. Like, so basically, if you can
Hmm.
imagine the woman who's getting married to a household, assuming that she lives with the mother-in-law and the father-in-law, she's signing up for a job where she's not paid. She's given food and clothing and shelter, but she doesn't have the option to resign. Okay, there is no promotion. All right, and there is no break. There is no weekend. There is no let's switch off at 6 p.m. and just chill. All right, there is no weekend, there is no vacation. All right, even in the how ironic is this, you call it
It's
vacation,
like it's like Groundhog Day.
even in the vacation, it's work, you're packing your husband's
In
clothing,
fact,
your
it's more work because not just that, if you look at, I'm familiar with Hindu festivals.
uh-huh.
So I'm just going to talk about Hindu festivals for a little bit.
I can
So
relate,
let's
yeah.
just, okay, fine. On a
Mhm.
normal day, you have, the woman working from, let's say, my mother. I'll just take my mother example. She wakes up at 4:30
Yeah.
and she goes to bed at 11. So that's a
Mm.
lot of work, right? On festivals, the husband comes home because there's no work. It could be Pongal, it could be whatever,
Yeah,
Ugadi,
holiday,
whatever.
holiday.
But the woman has extra, it's a holiday, but for the woman, it's extra work, man. Because
Yeah.
especially for women who believe in these festivals and all, there's all kinds of muhurtams and rahu kalams that you have to take into account, which
Yeah.
means that you have these time limits and deadlines, and everything has to be. It does not feel like a holiday.
Yeah.
Nothing about it feels
Yeah.
like a
So
holiday.
you're
And
you're signing up.
the women in my life
Yeah.
don't even complain about
Yeah,
it.
and
Yes,
yeah,
yes.
you signing up for a job which gives you very little in return in the form of food and clothing, which you make it seem like it's everything. Like she can get that anywhere if you let her
Mm,
work by herself,
mm,
educate her and let her do a
mm.
job. When you're saying you're compensating a woman for her work by food and shelter, you're actually robbing her opportunity to earn that food and shelter and then giving it back.
Yeah,
Like that
yeah,
is
yeah.
not exactly fucking
Totally.
compensation. That's not how it works, right?
That's not how it works.
Say you're working for an IT company and it gives you salary. But
Mm,
imagine if you're working for an IT company, but it grabs your car back and then gives you
mm.
the compensation of the car, but that's not compensation, right? Like, what are you talking about?
It's fraud.
Yeah,
It's fraud. It's like
yeah.
it's like
If you're
see. I'll tell you
if
one
you
more thing.
yeah
I
if
think
you're
you have to
if you,
look at it.
I'm sorry, just like if you don't
Mm,
accept
mm,
a corporation doing it, how do you accept
mm.
society doing it to a homemaker?
See, I think what we need to look at are these, and the movie really also highlights it. I don't know
Sure.
if you remember this one scene where Suraj's character, he's a teacher, right?
The husband,
Probably
yeah.
for 11th and 12th, the
Sure.
husband is a teacher.
Sure.
And this is, he's taking a sociology class, and he's like, what
Yeah.
is a family? Family is a universal structure,
Mm.
and family has marriage, family has a man and a woman united by marriage with or without children. This is the definition that
Sure.
he gives. So I think what this movie is also trying to say is that family is an oppressive structure for the women involved,
Mm.
right? Oppressive in what sense? In the sense that she's not allowed to realize her true potential.
Yes.
She's not allowed. Going back to what I said earlier, I just want to give a few examples. These are
Mm.
very, very small examples, but very relatable.
Right.
So the first thing I wanted to say was, there's no room for truth telling.
Mm.
Let us say that I'm in a relationship with someone, and I feel like this person is not treating me right.
Mm.
I think that where I am in my life right now, I have the courage and self-respect to say, hey, you're not treating me right. Can we not do this
Yeah.
and have a conversation about this? Nimisha's character tries to do that.
Yeah.
She tries to say to him, you have table manners in that Calicut Darbar hotel restaurant.
Yes.
What happens to your manners at home, right? But his ego is so fragile that even though she says it like a joke,
Hmm.
he takes it so seriously and makes her apologize for it, and she does it so grudgingly.
Yeah.
So number one, in a structure like this, in an oppressive structure like this, there is no room for you to express yourself.
Sure.
You can't tell the truth about the oppression that you're feeling, because she has a problem with having to clean up after him. She
Hmm.
hates it.
Yeah.
She hates having to do it. And I love that about the movie. She's not just doing it, and this is my duty, this is my husband, Pati Pativrata.
Mm-mm-mm.
She's not like that. She's like, "Ugh." You can see it on her face. Like
Yeah.
whenever she's cleaning up, she's disgusted. And I
Yeah.
totally get it. Like even during sex, all she can think about are those maggots and dropping
Yes.
food and putting her hand in the sink, and all brilliantly done. So number
Hmm.
one, in an oppressive structure, you can't really tell the truth, because when you tell the truth, you have consequences, right? And then there's no room to express your opinion or even show solidarity. For
Right.
example, what happens when she shares that Facebook video, right? She's just expressing her opinion,
Yeah.
and by sharing something on Facebook, what you're doing is you're saying, I agree with this and I want this to get more visibility. So
Hmm.
sharing something on social media is a very harmless way of showing solidarity.
Sure.
What happens? She's asked to delete that video.
Yep.
So in a structure like this, you can't have opinions,
Hmm.
you can't tell the truth. And
Right.
most importantly, throughout the movie, at least in the latter half of the movie, she has a cold, right? She gets a
Hmm.
cold. She's
Hmm.
not allowed to take care of herself, and she's made to sleep on the floor, which she's not used to. So she gets a lot of backaches. She's constantly cricking her neck. So
Yeah.
what I'm trying to say is, in an oppressive structure, you're kept working all the time,
Hmm.
so there's no time to relax. And I don't also want us to quickly compare this family structure. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, I don't want us to think that corporate jobs are great. Why can't homemaker jobs be like corporate jobs?
Hmm.
I don't want to do that so quickly, because if you look at corporate jobs as well, they also don't give you time to relax, especially when you want to really become have get a promotion,
Hmm.
whatever you want to do well on the job. You're kept working all the time. You
Yeah.
don't really have time to actually do that, which is why people get a lot of fatigue working in a corporate
Sure.
career,
Sure.
right? So I would say that we need to widen our imagination
Hmm.
in terms of how we want to live ourselves, not just immediately say, homemakers also must have jobs, sorry, home managing must be treated as a corporate job.
Yeah.
Let's widen our imagination and think of how else it could be better.
And it
Yeah.
cannot be a job. Job is something, there is no freedom in the job, right? As I said, you cannot back out and you cannot
Mm.
change companies, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's
I
like,
do know what you mean. Hmm.
no, listen, it's like you cannot back out. There is no like, I'm done, I'm
Oh,
fatigued.
actually, you can, because there is something called a divorce. Thank
Oh
God,
my God.
you can
Let,
back out. It's just that it's not easy,
sure,
and
exactly,
people.
exactly. Not easily backed out,
But
back out. That's my,
but that's the same thing with a corporate job, right? If you,
yeah.
let's just say that you have a job in a company,
Mm,
or you have a government job, and it really sucks, but you need the money because you
yeah,
need to put food on the table.
exactly.
It's not that easy to resign, right?
Yeah,
It's just that in a corporate space, or whatever, stereotypical job, you get money.
yeah.
Here you're supposed to feel satisfied,
Set aside
because
for the,
you're getting bhiksha, you're getting your clothes and your food. And the thing is, you see, sometimes people want children. Okay, I'm not going to doubt that
mm,
women want children, whatever.
right.
Sometimes we don't, but then we're made to feel like we're inadequate
Yeah.
for not wanting to have children. And then on top of this day, this grind, you have children on top of it. At
Yes.
this point, you're like, okay, you know what? Whatever little fire you have in you
Mm,
is burnt out. Now, that I think I need to talk about this in the movie, because one of my favorite characters in the movie is actually her mother-in-law.
right.
Now, when Nimisha wants financial independence, when she wants a job,
Mm.
do you remember what her father-in-law, the Achan, says? He
He
says,
says the work that you do itself is as good as a
Yeah.
collector's work.
Yeah, that. But he also says something very important.
Uh-huh.
He says your mother-in-law, which is his wife,
Mm.
has an MA, is a
Yeah.
postgraduate,
Sure.
and
Sure.
apparently she approached him back in the day,
Mm.
wanting to work,
Mm.
and his father told him to dissuade her against it. Right.
Yeah.
So she basically did the same thing that Nimisha's character did,
Sure.
and so which means that she had that fire in her to
Mm.
not settle for this life, to be her own person, to
Yeah.
get her own money, but they just stamped that fire out, and she's like, you know what, just fine. I'm just gonna go with this.
That's the story of at
So
least 10,000 of my relatives who were aeronautical engineers, civil engineers, software engineers, but they ended up, serving tea, serving dosas, and their potential was left behind.
I don't know if you remember. I don't know if you remember this
Mm.
in the movie. The shot where the Achan says, "Your work is great as the work that bureaucrats do." You won't believe this, but the director is so brilliant. The very next shot is her washing his underwear
Yes.
with a look of extreme disgust on her face. What satisfaction am I supposed to get from washing a grown man's underwear?
Mm.
What are you talking? What is this bullshit? So this movie, number one, is about self-respect. Number two is about men's bullshit.
Right.
So you're giving me a lot of bullshit about
Mm.
the satisfaction that I'm about to
Satisfaction.
get. And you know what? If I get satisfaction, I will feel it. You don't have to
Mm.
make me feel it. I will feel the satisfaction, and I will do it. So if I don't feel satisfied, I'm going to go and see. That's the thing. She's so passionate about dancing. She wants
Yeah.
to be a dance teacher. There are many shots in the movie, Adikadi, you see her just,
Sure.
watching dance videos on YouTube.
Sure.
That
Sure.
is the thing that gives her satisfaction.
Mm.
Even at the end, when she's doing the rehearsal, the look of satisfaction on her face, it's just glorious to see how joyful she is, that she's
Right.
able to choreograph this whole excellent routine.
Mm.
Right? So that is the thing that she gets satisfaction. That is the thing that she, get paid for. And there's also
Exactly.
a suggestion there that says, even if she's being, even if she's not getting a lot of money for it, she would still do it.
Yeah.
I'd like to think that she would even offer free classes, because that is the thing that gives her satisfaction, not washing
Exactly.
underwear. That
Exactly.
was somebody else's underwear,
Yeah.
right? So yeah.
Precisely.
So movies about self-respect and men's bullshit. I think we can
Mm-mm-mm.
add more to the list as we continue talking.
Even everything becomes a chore, right? All the chores are dumped on her. Like the very fact of breakfast preparation. Like I'm this lazy bum who wakes up at 10 a.m. I'm like, how many women are waking around the country at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. every day without any choice and preparing food for 5 people? Here I am. I once prepared food for my family. I'm cutting 8 onions, blasting Led Zeppelin songs for like 1 hour. I'm like, these women are supposed to like do all this in 1 hour, wrap up their lunch bags, and then wrap up their husband's lunch
Yeah.
bag. I just
Yeah.
when I thought
And
about
just add
every
children to the mix.
yeah, add children to the mix. I'm like, this is so much work, and we have been dumping it on women for like millennium, right? Centuries.
Yeah. And also, I want to say two things at this point. The
Mm.
first thing is, so when she's on her period, she's treated like she's untouchable and unseeable, right?
Sure,
She's
sure,
sent
sure.
to some corner of the house.
Yeah.
She's not allowed to touch things. Everything needs to be separate,
Mm.
the whole thing.
Mm.
So even, and people have this horrible excuse where they say, this is Indian culture where, we care so much about the woman that when she's on her period, we don't want her to do anything. We want her
Sure.
to relax.
Mm.
Okay, then why don't you let her do whatever the hell she wants?
Mm.
Point number one. Point number two. So a decent person, would then, if they're actually allowing her to relax,
Right.
then you're supposed to do the cleaning and the cooking. But no, that void is also filled by another woman,
Servant.
Usha's character.
Sure.
Yeah. So that
Underpaid.
again is underpaid.
We underpay
not
our
not
servants
respected.
massively.
Yeah. So that's been a problem in our country for God knows how long. So this is what I wanted to say, that this lacuna. So even when one woman is not working, you bring in another woman,
Yeah.
and then when something happens to her, you bring in another. So it's just that the men never want to do in that particular scenario. The men never want to do unpaid labor.
Yeah,
Cooking.
exactly. If you think, okay, women are getting, again, the classic argument of shelter, food, clothing, they're not even getting proper sex, right? Can we
Mm.
can we assume that? Is that a fair
Yeah. From the
declaration to
movie,
do
definitely.
from the
Yeah.
movie. And we are not exactly a sexually educated country, let's be honest. No one
I think
teaches us about.
there's a
Yeah.
lot of repression.
And
There's a
there
lot of
is repression, and then you're not allowed to talk about it. You're not allowed to talk about it, and I just feel bad. Like, okay, you know what, that's what scares me about like arranged marriages. Like, what if you're not
mm,
sexually compatible? What do you do?
mm,
You have no education to communicate. There is no such thing called therapy or therapist. It's considered shameful to go
mm.
consult someone.
Right.
And most men are like pretty fucking selfish in the bed.
Forget selfish. It's more like entitled. You're you're
Yes.
you're entitled to my body. It's like that.
Mm,
You know.
mm,
So I don't care how you're feeling. I don't care if you are tired, if you don't want to have sex. I don't care if you want to have sex in a particular way. I'm just going to get on top of you and hump you like I'm a dog and you're a bitch. And then I'm going to go fall asleep. I don't really care. There's no care, you know.
mm.
Like, how do I care for your needs? That does not seem to be there. And that's the thing. Like I said earlier, when I said there's no room for truth telling, she tells him
Sure.
the truth. She tells him, it hurts when you have sex with me. Can
Mm.
we please have some foreplay?
Foreplay.
So there's truth and there is a request,
Mm.
neither of which is respected. So what does he say? He says, if I have to do so first, he actually alleges that
I'll tell you.
she's
I'll
the
tell you.
slut.
That for me
Yeah.
is one of the best scenes of that movie was where I just went like divorce that shit. Where he said you're not really desirable enough to for me to do the foreplay. He says something like that.
No, but before that, you know what he says? He says, "Oh, foreplay. So you know what foreplay is," as if to
Mm.
say that the very fact that you know so much about sex means that you probably already you're not a I'm not your first.
Mm.
So there's already this fetishizing of virginity that men
Sure.
do, which is just as gross. But apart from that, then he says that if I have to do foreplay, then I have to feel something for you.
Yeah.
And I think that it is at that point that we see Nimisha's character break down for the first time. I feel
Exactly.
like from that point onwards,
Pivotal moment.
there
Yep.
is
Twist.
it's a pivotal moment because from there onwards, there's no more the gloves come off.
Yeah.
She starts showing her emotions, way more vividly, and
Sure.
her disgust with him becomes clearer and clearer after that one scene.
Sure. And men lose virginity 10 years before marriage, but they still want the virgin woman. So that's the classic. Yeah. Classic. Um,
Gross.
and then what happens is what I see among my friends who tons of them are getting married, right?
Mm-hmm.
They live shit life as bachelors. Their
Mm-hmm.
houses are shit. Their rooms are shit.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm
Mm-hmm.
not the most tidiest person in my circle, but when they get married, the same houses are clean as fuck. There is
Mm-hmm.
this guy who got married and he was married just before the lockdown. He moved to a different city, but then the lockdown happened, so she was separated from his wife.
Mm-hmm.
They united after like 3 4 months in the lockdown. And he said, like, dude, like every single powder is at the right box in my kitchen. I feel so good. I'm like, you would have done that like before you met your wife, right? Like you could have felt the
Yeah.
same special before, right? What the fuck is
So
stopping you?
thank you for bringing this up because I finally remembered what I wanted to say
Sure.
earlier. In the movie, this mother-in-laws. So
Hmm.
Suraj's character, the husband also has a sister, right?
Sure.
And the sister is somewhere else, right?
Yeah.
She's pregnant,
Yeah.
and she calls the mother-in-law, this
Mm.
aging lady, to come and again labor for her.
Mm.
She even though she looks like she has enough money to hire someone and pay them properly, like compensate them properly for the work that they can do, she
Sure.
still hires her mother because she does not have to pay the mother, right?
Mm.
So and the mother is like, you know
Mother's
what,
mother's love
she
comes for free.
huh horrible.
Mm.
So the mother says, she actually stands up for herself. She says, I can't come, can you find somebody else? There's
Yeah.
so much to do here.
Mm.
And that fucker, she says, there is somebody else now. There's somebody else now, na? So you
Mm.
come. She will take care. So what I'm trying to say is, in India, I feel like, at least in the subcontinent, men get married so that they have somebody to take care of themselves,
Oh my
somebody to
God.
take care of them,
Can I just pause you here
so that
for a
they have
moment?
somebody.
Can I
Yeah.
just pause you here for a moment? I am at this marriageable age, and one of my relatives said, like,
How
I'm
old are
like,
you?
yeah, let's not reveal that. So, there is this relatives like, why don't you get married? I'm like, dude, marriage is a lot of hard work, and I'm kind of intimidated by that fact. I mean, I love my careless little life, and it's
Mm.
it's hard work. And like, dude, you don't have to work hard. The wife will take care of you. She will do it for you. I'm like, well,
So you need a nurse.
you need a nurse and a maid and a cook and a cleaner, and then
So get all these people and pay them properly.
sometimes
Treat
a
them properly.
sometimes mental health therapist, sometimes a
Mm.
personality developer,
Mm.
sometimes sex
And a
coach,
hooker.
all that.
Yeah.
You're getting it for free, and
Mm.
you want it badly. Oh my god, you want it by the age of 27.
Mm. For, yeah. And for women, because we're not allowed to have at least as far as this movie goes, we're not allowed to have jobs.
Yeah.
So what we get is we get food, clothing, shelter, and the
Mm.
protection of a man who
Mm.
disrespects you most of the
Yeah, and the women who are working, that's like double work. That's like doing two jobs with one unpaid job.
time.
You know,
Yeah,
it's
yeah,
like
yeah.
men
See,
work. Yeah.
the thing is, the reason why movies like this are made is because if in a household, if the family structure was not like this,
Mm.
if women were not treated like slaves, right? We wouldn't be really fighting for this, right? For
Sure.
example, let us say that I have a husband. Let us say that he cooks and I clean, I cook and he cleans, and we have this great communication going. We care for each other, we respect each other. We don't. Neither of us feels like we're being taken for granted, right?
Yes.
Then I wouldn't go on a crusade telling people that my marriage sucks or I feel
Mm.
terrible, right? Because I don't feel like I'm taken for granted. My needs are taken care of. I feel like I'm being respected. That is
Mm.
that is truly important,
Sure.
right? But the thing is, the reason why movies are made like this, keeping a particular audience in mind, which is women, is because women feel like they're taken for granted.
Mm.
That the entire weight of managing the house is put on them. So if that didn't happen, I don't think women will really ask to be paid for whatever they're doing, because then
Exactly.
it's being equally distributed. You go ahead and you have your job. I go ahead, I have my job. We come home and we deal with this shit together. We
Yeah.
clean up after our own shit. And when we do that, when you clean up after your own shit every day, I wouldn't mind cleaning up after you that one day when you're sick,
Yeah.
or that one day when you're in a rush, right?
Exactly.
Because I know that there was a particular reason why I had to put your plate in the sink, because you had to rush or
Mm.
you were sick. There's no resentment in me. What Nimisha's character feels throughout the film is resentment. And what her husband feels throughout the film is entitlement.
Entitlement.
So the more entitled he feels, the more resentful she feels. Which is why that shot where she just throws that bucket of
Yeah.
sink water
Yeah.
is so cathartic to people like me who were like, "Fuck, this is what this motherfucker needed," right?
Exactly.
And then the scene after, where she gets super pissed with her brother,
Mm.
who asks her sister to get water. Actually, no, he doesn't ask. He asks his mother to get water, and the mother says to the
Yes.
girl, to the little girl, "Go get water for your brother."
And
And
she
Nisha's
yells,
character is like,
"Get your own
"Fuck,
fucking
just
water."
get
Yeah.
it yourself. Yeah, get your own water.
Mm.
What is the matter with you? You
Exactly.
know?
Exactly. I love the fact, what I love about the movie is like the men that they're trying to show in that movie are not exactly like these demons of abusers or something. Like, I mean, they are abusing, right?
Mm,
But not abusing to our definitions, right? They're not exactly like
mm.
bad men in our desi definitions of culture. They're good men. That's a good family, respectable family, and they are
Normal men.
normal
Yeah.
men.
So
Because
this
we have,
movie
because
basically shows you how
yeah,
horrible
be,
normalcy is.
yeah, it shows you the shit side of the normalcy, how we have normalized shit, how we have normalized
Yeah.
entitlement, how we have
Yeah.
normalized this expectation, just the free expectation. And I was like, this dude, this old ass guy needs wife to get the
Mm.
footwear for him
And the
so
thing
that he can
is,
wear.
when good point. And when she's not around, he looks around. He's like, he needs to go out, and he realizes that his feet are missing something. He walks and gets it himself. So the fucker can do it himself. He
Yes.
was always able to do it himself, but no, has to come and hand it to him.
Yeah, compensated work is what men do,
Mm.
and what men
Yeah.
mostly do things that they get appreciation for. For
Mm.
example, there was this time after lockdown, I like cooked for like 50 people, and
Mm.
I loved the compliment once, twice, thrice, and then I'm like,
Mm.
your women have been doing this for like past 60 years. Your wife has been doing it for like 20 years. I just cook once, and like, what's
Mm.
different here?
Which is what I wanted to said earlier. Let's not talk about exceptional things that men do,
Mm,
or
mm.
let's not talk about exceptional men.
No, I'm not trying to brag here. I'm like trying to point at
No,
the
I understand.
stark
Yeah,
difference about the
yeah,
appreciation
yeah.
that I got, which I felt
Mm.
good for like first 3 minutes, and then I'm like, what's happening here?
No, it's like saying, "Oh, he takes such good care of the daughter." Yeah,
Mm.
he better. He's
He,
the father.
exactly.
Start for doing the bare minimum.
And there are two ways men get treated when they treat their women nicely. Okay, one is they get over appreciated, like, wow, he cooks for his wife, he brings
It's like you
groceries
have
for his
really low
wife.
standards,
Yeah.
right? You have really low standards.
Oh my God, like, appreciate this guy. He maintains equality in the house. I'm like, dude, that should be normal.
That's
There is
common
second,
decency.
yeah, there is second type. The second type is like men get shamed. Tu joru ka gulam ban gaya. You become your wife's slave. Okay, and they
Yeah,
are shamed.
yeah,
You're such a pussy, man. Like, make your wife work. That is the other kind of. That's like this weird masculinity element coming in,
yeah.
which
So
should be
I
massively
think
redefined. Sure, go on.
true for sure. So when you look at the first thing that you said, it's a very good point because why do we have such low standards? See, women, we talk to each other about the horrible things that men keep doing,
Mm,
right? And
mm,
how other women also enable this system of
mm,
horribleness.
mm,
So then the reason why, at least in our Indian society, we have such low standards for men
mm,
and such high standards for women is because we're not allowed to date, right? We're
mm.
not allowed to date people. So, for example, if I dated a bunch of men, I'll know how some men are better than other men
Yeah,
in terms of how they treat me, in terms of how they communicate, in terms of their visions of the world, in terms of so many things, ideology,
sure.
politics. I need to shop in order to know what's good for me.
Mm,
I need to, date three men, four men. I don't know how many men. Every person has a different number,
yeah.
but I need to. Personally, I feel like if people were allowed to date without being shamed for it,
Mm,
without having to keep it secret, then we wouldn't have such low standards. Because then they'd
sure.
be like, you know what? My ex-boyfriend was not as shitty as you are. My ex-boyfriend is much better than you. So I think I'm going to break up with you and find somebody who's better for me. Or it could be like, you're much better than my ex, man. He was an asshole. Thank God I broke up with him. So now you'll be able to calibrate your standards better if you're allowed to choose, if you're allowed to date. But no, you get married as soon as you're 22, 24. If you're lucky that, he's a decent person, you're like, he's so decent. He washes his own teacup. Bitch, you're being taken for a ride. People are supposed to wash up after themselves. You just don't know because you have not dated enough,
Mm,
right? And so if women ask for this right to date, we are through all kinds of shit is thrown at us. And I speak from personal experience where I've been told that it was a mistake to get me educated
mm.
because now I'm having all these ideas of Western culture and how Indian culture is being forgotten, as if I was responsible for upholding Indian culture. I refuse to be held responsible for whatever happens to Indian culture. A and B, what the hell is Indian culture? There's so many Indians. There's like a billion of us.
Mm.
We have so many cultures. What exactly are you talking about? You're talking about Brahminical culture where the woman is a slave. Continue.
Let me be this devil's advocate here again, asshole devil's advocate. Why do you call women a slave? We respect them. We call them goddess, okay, and then we call them mothers, and we love our mothers. We are so protective about our sisters. Daughters are the heaven of a father's eye, and all that jazz. What are
Yeah,
you talking
I
about?
you know what, Najib, I'm gonna keep my cat in a cage
Mm,
and give it food every 8 hours.
mm,
Not let it go anywhere because if it goes anywhere, then it can be killed.
mm.
So my cat is going to be extremely protected. It won't go anywhere. It'll live until it's 25 years old,
Sure.
and it'll have its cage, which is always clean. And I will give it food every 8 hours. This is my response.
Right. Well,
What is the cost of the protection that you're giving me?
exactly.
Right?
The returns are so little.
Yeah, I don't feel happy that I'm protected by you. I want to
Exactly.
protect myself, A, and B, protection must be a two-way street as well. I don't want to be super independent. I don't want to live like a hermit or anything.
Mm.
I want us to be interdependent, right? I
Sure.
want you to depend on me, and I want myself to be dependent on you. I
Mm.
want us to be involved together in this, right? Both of us
Sure.
have stakes in this relationship. You can't just be like, I'm going to lock you up in a room so that you stay protected.
Sure.
What is the cost of this protection? Where is my freedom?
Exactly. There are many points that various men will feel ashamed watching this movie. And the point, let me tell you, the point where I felt ashamed was when the guests come over to that house and all the
Yeah.
responsibility of feeding the guests is like dumped on her. And then I
Mm.
reflected to a moment where I love my mom's dosas. And I just called five of
Mm.
my friends to taste my mom's dosas, just like that. And I
Mm.
didn't do
Did
shit
you
to
check
her.
with your mom first?
I checked with my mom. She will accept because she's mom.
Mm.
Okay, and I didn't realize that. And
Mm.
I didn't do shit to help her, obviously. And then we just had a great time, and I've had this weird satisfaction that like, whoa, my friends liked my mom's dosa. And then when I felt bad about it later as well. But this scene reminded me of that. I'm not trying to disrespect my friends. I loved the fact that they came over and they were like had a good time. But at what cost did they have that good time is
Yeah.
my point, right? And that point hit me home when I saw that particular scene.
Also, yeah, then that man who comes home, he says, today it's a holiday for all the women. We're going to take care of everything. They do the
Mm.
fun stuff, Najeeb. They do the fun stuff, which is the cooking and the eating. The cleanup is left to her again. And then he has the audacity to say, what is left to clean? What is left? What work is left?
Yeah.
We did everything,
Yeah.
you know?
The point that I was telling you, the only fun thing about cooking is the cooking itself.
Yeah. It's like this, it's like men, or I can actually extrapolate it to, in any given situation,
Hmm.
the oppressor. It could
Hmm.
be in a caste hierarchy, class hierarchy, gender hierarchy, anything.
Race.
The
Yeah.
the figure of the oppressor,
Hmm.
there's just so much of labor that is invisible to the oppressor,
Yes.
or it's very much there. They just choose not to see it, because choosing to
Hmm.
see it makes one, it presses on your conscience, and you'll have to start taking some very difficult decisions, such as washing your own teacup,
Sure.
right? So you don't want to take those such difficult decisions. You'd rather
Hmm.
just look away and give bullshit, such as, this is also satisfying. If it is also satisfying, why don't you do it yourself? Why don't you get that satisfaction? If that satisfaction feels so good, why don't you get that bit of that satisfaction? And I'll do the old boring day job as the bureaucrat.
Because it's work, bitch. That's why you don't get the satisfaction. It's
And
mundane. It's
that's
a
the
chore.
thing.
Yeah.
And just look at these jobs that are held up as great jobs, as
Hmm.
bureaucrats, collectors, and police officers. How many of them actually work? I mean, just look at the stereotype of this. Just look at it stereotypically. I'm sure that there are a lot of collectors and bureaucrats who actually work. But
Yep.
when you think of Indian government officials, do you think of them as hardworking people?
Mm-hmm. Not
Because if
not too
they were
much.
hardworking people,
They have way too many
yeah,
lunch breaks.
way too many lunch. And I'm talking about like high-end jobs.
Yeah.
The
Sure. Sure.
clerks
Sure.
and the peons, they are running around,
Sure.
working.
Sure.
But the,
Sure.
the ones sitting in their AC rooms and all, they just seem to like come in aram, say, just like turn a few
Our
pages.
our Indian our Indian government bureaucracy is kind of reflective of what happens at home as well.
Yeah.
It's just the entitlement that they carry that everything should be done for them.
See, if people working such high-profile jobs actually worked, I think a lot of things in our country would be a lot better. We would be like Japan or
Yeah.
something,
That
right?
should start from home, right? When you're not.
No, once you get that coveted government job, that's
Mm.
it. Because that job is just, it
That's
gives you
just
security
that's
for
just
life.
extension of an entitlement. That's what
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah. So you're like, I've gotten the government job. I'm
Mm.
happy now. I don't even have to actually work. I
Yeah.
can just sit here, while away time, and I'll get my salary, I'll get my pension, I'll get whatever. So I don't even have. But with a woman's labor, can she actually do that? According to this movie, at least, no.
Nope.
You have to actually produce deliverables, to use corporate
Yeah.
language. You have to
Deliverables.
produce.
The deliverables
Yeah.
are good dosa, the good dal, the clean utensils, the clean floor, the great bed, the great
Yeah.
laundry.
Everything, deliverables. Because if any of these is missing, you're noticed, and you're brought to book, right?
Exactly.
Immediately.
Immediately. A grain
in
of
in,
salt.
in
A
these
grain of salt
coveted
will be bought.
jobs. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. In these coveted jobs that apparently are not as great as
Mm.
working in the kitchen, you're not brought to account unless activists or other people in the office actually notice that some kind of corruption is happening. and there are RTIs, and then there's media pressure. These things don't happen on a daily basis, do they?
Yeah,
Because if they did happen on a daily basis, our country wouldn't be like this.
exactly.
You know,
That's exactly why our food is great, but our government is not great because we hold our food very accountable very quickly, which is
yeah,
especially
that's a big
which is made by women
point. Yeah.
99% of the time.
And even if you look at labor, that's highly underappreciated. The
Yes.
construction of who are building our roads, our railway tracks, the buildings that we live in. We don't know the names of people who are actually involved in these, and it's all called like unorganized sector, skilled labor. Can you
Mm,
fucking build a house? How is this non-skilled labor? What is the matter with you? The number of things that go into building a house, it's insane. You need to have an insane skill
yeah,
skill set to mix cement and line the bricks and do the plastering and the centering and the slab and all of that. There's so much involved, and you have these kids, you bring these kids with you, and the kids play in the sand and you're worried about the kids. There's so much happening. How
yeah.
is that unskilled labor? I don't get it. How is cooking unskilled labor?
It's unskilled labor, it's unpaid job, and it's a job without leisure. I mean, like 18
But if
hours
you
out
have
of.
somebody, right, but if you have somebody who's, I don't know, what is the word? Investment banker,
Mm,
right? Basically conning people, right? Them lose money. That takes a lot of skill. And I'm not
mm,
even saying it sarcastically. That does take a lot of skill. That how productive is that, right? How are you
sure.
helping, society at large? You're just helping yourself.
Exactly. I love the fact that he chose to show her work in kitchen for so long. The camera stays and it makes you watch and it makes you feel guilty, makes you feel ashamed. Like, look at this shit. Look at what your women go through. This is their life. You can't watch this
Mm,
shit for 10 minutes. Bitch, they do this
mm.
for 60 years every day, hours together, hours in the kitchen. All right.
There
And
is a
then,
very interesting documentary that I would really like you to mention the whatever. I don't know if there's a link to it. I think it was only sold on DVD.
mm,
Uh, it's a movie directed by this director called Divya Bharati.
sure.
Okay, I just thought of it when you talked about how things are made to be hyper visible.
Mm,
It's called Kakus. You know what Kakus means?
yeah. Yeah. Toilet. Yeah. Mm,
Yeah. So the movie, it's a documentary, and the filmmaker Divya Bharati, she just goes around talking to manual scavengers. And the thing is, this was shown in my university,
mm-hmm.
and people, some of them, they couldn't bear to see the visuals, so they just
Yeah.
walked away.
Sure.
So this, when you said, people do this for 60 years, you can't even sit through, 10 minutes of it. It
Mm,
reminded me of that,
mm.
about how people don't even want to look because it, makes you queasy. But think about the people having to do this shit.
Exactly. Have to do that shit. And you appreciate the clean street without knowing who's cleaning it.
Who's cleaning it? Who's keeping it clean? Exactly. And
Yeah.
all of that apparently is unskilled labor. Does
Yeah.
not require. If it does not require any skill, why don't you do it? But no, but you feel that it's beneath you, and you need your PF and your paycheck and your
Mm,
what is that thing? Travel allowance, and
yeah.
you need all of it. Right?
Right. Yeah. Obviously, we are not compensating that because there is abundant people available to do that. That's how capitalism works. But that's a
I'm
different
just
story.
wondering if yeah, I'm just wondering if people tell manual scavengers that it's a lot of satisfaction that you can get by cleaning other
Mm,
people's shit. This is God's work. This is
mm.
spiritual work. Cleaning people's shit is spirituality. Anyway,
Yeah,
you were saying.
that's a good comparison, you know. And one argument that I hear is like these days things are changing, men are getting better, and there's more equality. We are allowing women to work,
Allowing
and
women to work.
yeah, you obviously hear those things, right? Women are being
Mm.
allowed to work, and men are getting better. There's equality. Men are also helping wife and all of that. But that is again that you're looking at such a
Centering.
small statistic, ignoring the rest of the
I think,
country.
yeah, I think men are irrelevant,
Mm,
right? What I mean by that is, it does not matter what men in this particular heteronormative gender debate, men versus
sure,
women. I think that whatever you have to say, whatever you have to do, it is important that you do it quietly.
exactly.
It is important that you don't draw attention to yourself and your experiences and make yourself out to be this exceptional man.
Mm,
I think it's important that you just keep quiet. You identify so much with the idea of men,
mm,
with your own gender, that to you, when you see a story where the man is not, a police officer, where a man is not being glorified,
Mm.
you automatically identify with that man and you feel so defensive. That is the problem.
Sure.
Why, when I say men are trash or men are irrelevant, Najeeb,
Mm.
am I talking about Najeeb?
No, it's
I'm
about
not talking about
it's
you.
about a bigger picture. It's much bigger than Najeeb.
So when I say men, I don't mean you. Why are you getting defensive? Are you all
Yeah.
men? You're not
Yeah.
all men.
If you will get defensive if you are all men. That's the point.
Yeah, exactly. We have given ourselves the right
Mm.
to say that men are trash.
Mm.
That is the right we give ourselves, right? You
Sure.
can't take it away from us.
Right.
If you say women are trash,
Mm.
it's on you, but we are going to fight that.
Yeah.
Our solidarity is so great that we're going to fight that. But if we say men are trash, you won't have many people backing you up because
Yeah.
there is no solidarity amongst men.
And there is no solid. And then, dude, you already have so many privileges.
But that's the thing. That
Yeah.
you choose not to see it because suddenly people are
Mm.
speaking up and you feel like you're being put in a spot. You feel like your identity is being questioned. But the thing is, you're not actually questioning your identity. You only
Mm.
feel like you're being the victim,
Yeah.
which is why movies come out, which is why art comes out, because we're doing
Exactly.
everything we can to help you see that we've had it bad for so long and we just want some respite,
Mm.
right?
Here's one more thing. I take care of my wife. Hence, I
Yeah.
bought maids for her.
Why don't you just share the load, man?
Yeah.
Hashtag. Just
You know,
share the load.
I
See,
wa- uh,
even if you have maids, right? You're not going to be paying them as much as you're earning, right? You're
mm,
not going to be compensating them properly, appropriately, right? You're not going to be doing that. You're going to give them 2,000 rupees per month, and then you're going to make them work their asses off, no holidays, treat them with such disrespect.
sure.
Sometimes you don't even refer to them by their name. So, how are you making the situation better?
You're just shifting your repression to other women, which is
Yeah,
not your wife, and you expect appreciation for that.
that's the thing. Men
Mm.
expect appreciation for doing
And
the right shit.
and I had this guy who legit told. I had two guys legit told. One lady and one guy. One lady said like, poor people in America, man. They clean their own house. They clean their own toilets. Here, India, everyone does it for you. And there was this legit guy. I said like, dude, I'm actually planning to move out of the country. And he's like, why do you want to move out, man? Here you can have comfortable life, earn more money, and shit gets taken care of. Why do you want to move out?
Hmm. It's just entitlement. You're so used to having people clean up after you.
Mm. Are there any other scenes that hit you hard? Maybe you
Uh,
said you didn't identify with the character, but you must have seen as you said, your mother, sister, cousins, etc., etc.,
yeah,
etc.
yeah, definitely. I mean, I've had so many uh, fights with my dad. This one time, in fact, I just yelled at him. I said, "I'm not your servant. Can you please get the water yourself?"
Mm.
He got really pissed, and there's so many times I've heard my mother just criticizing him under her breath,
Sure,
saying, "Why can't he do this for himself? Like, why do I have to do this?" you know
sure.
so I have felt what Nimisha's character has felt, but definitely not to the degree in which she has to go through,
Mm.
because she's working so hard, and I'm not like that.
The point of this movie was to initiate a conversation. At least we had a conversation, the bare minimum we can do.
So I can tell you what I felt after I finished watching the movie.
Hmm.
I felt so happy for the character. To me, the character felt like a real person
Yeah.
who actually, walked out of a really bad situation. She helped
Mm.
herself. She did not wait for Ayappa to come and help her.
Sure.
She did not wait for God to help her. Nothing.
Yeah.
She just did
That
what she had to do in order to get out.
how many can walk
And
out like
I
that?
love and I love how she uses the little girl as her accomplice and says, bolt the
Mm.
door so that these two can't escape.
Sure.
Because if you remember, before she throws the bucket of water at
Mm.
Suraj's character,
Mm.
he's coming to hit her.
Yeah.
She's not having any of that.
Mm.
She's not gonna take that line down. So she
Mm.
just basically immobilizes them, bolts the door, locks them in, and then just goes her way.
But
So
but here's the argument. Why can't every woman walk out like that? What's stopping them?
that's a very bad question.
Mm.
because then you're putting the onus on the woman who's already in a bad situation. So the
Exactly.
question to ask is, why can't men stop being assholes?
Mm,
So when you're in an abusive situation, it's just very indecent to ask why can't you,
exactly.
why don't you?
Exactly. Sure, sure. Well, that was a hopefully
Thank
that was
you.
a thought
It
provoking
was very easy to
conversation.
talk to you as well. I was
Yeah.
actually like, I have my notes and everything. I didn't even have to consult it. So thank you
Oh my
so
God. Oh,
much.
you
This was
had
nice.
any interesting points to say? Go ahead. I mean, I don't know if I've missed something.
Oh, no, not really. I think we've covered everything actually.
Mm,
Yeah, the first, I was just noting down all the points in the movie where it starts off like with those really small things and then
mm,
it just becomes bigger and bigger. So I remember that the first time in the movie where she's somewhat put off by the situation in the house is
sure.
when she offers tea to the father in law, and the father in
Mm,
law says, I've not brushed my teeth. And then
mm,
she's like nonchalantly, okay, then go brush your teeth, I'll heat up the tea for you. And he's toothbrush, like fucking child only. So
yeah.
she's just, taken aback. She's like, why should I give you your toothbrush? So it just starts off, the toothbrush, and then the sink
Exactly.
breaks, and then,
Snowball.
she's made it snowballs. Then she's made to grind chutney by hand. He
Mm,
needs the rice to be cooked on a fire, and then she's not allowed to have a job. So that's a big thing, right?
mm,
And then she's not allowed to share her opinion on his table manners, and then her body starts to ache.
yeah.
And then she says to him, why can't we have better sex? Again,
Mm,
that's a very big point in the
mm,
movie. And then the friends come over, and at this point, she's had enough,
yes.
right? The disgust is visible on her face, and
Mm,
then period happens.
sure.
She's made to sit in
Hey,
one
don't
room and
forget the washing of the clothes. Don't wash in the washing machine.
washing of the clothes by hand.
She washes
Yeah, that
her
too.
father-in-law's underwear by hand.
Yeah. So it just, starts off with like seemingly small things,
Sure.
and then it snowballs, and the camera work also changes. In the beginning, it's
Mm,
all still shots, and as the movie progresses, it becomes like a shaky camera that's handheld,
yeah.
and you get to realize that things are unraveling at a very fast pace,
Mm.
and it all comes, yeah,
And
crashing.
what I have some issue that I have with Indian way of making movies on issues is they become very preachy. For example, if I take a
Yeah.
movie like Mulk, right? For example, it's a that movie has a great message, but to my taste, it sounded very preachy to me, very on the
I'm
face.
not sure about it.
What I love about this movie is there is absolutely nothing preachy about this. There's absolutely
Right.
nothing preachy about this. Very few dialogues, very neatly written.
Mm.
Whatever the few lines are written, it's what's between those lines. It's the silence between
Mm.
those
And
lines.
there's no background music.
There's
There's
no
no
background
background music.
music. The director wants you to not only watch the mundane chores, he also wants you to listen
Mhm.
to it.
Yeah.
He wants to listen to
It's a truly
the
immersive experience.
exactly the chewing of the men, and they put that waste
Yeah.
on that, and the junk from the sink. Oh, it's just great filmmaking.
It's a great
And
experience.
yeah, it's just
Yeah.
brilliant filmmaking, and I absolutely love the movie, and I
Me too.
recommend everyone to watch it.
Me too.
And it's
In
just
fact, in preparation for this podcast, I watched it again a
I
second
did
time.
I did same. I watched it twice, and it's just
And
like
I'm not bored at all. Like this, it's just so captivating.
it's beautifully made. And it's me being I'm the beneficiary of the patriarchy, obviously. And then lockdown, especially, and living by myself and all that stuff. And because before lockdown, I had maid who take care of my cooking when I was going to the office, and everything. But after the lockdown, it's just I changed. A kind of a realization dawned upon me, like how much work this shit is for one person. And I don't do that much work myself. I'm like, let's not use too many plates so that I don't have to wash too many plates. But when I went
Yeah.
home, I'm like, there are 5 people using 10 plates and 10 cups and 10 bowls, and then my
Yeah.
mom has to wash it, and then we help, but that amounts to nothing. And then the maid,
Yeah.
and then just the staggering amount of work that a homemaker will do. And I used to be of this opinion. I used to have this asshole opinion that homemakers just sit and watch serials. I'm like, serials are like the last resort of their leisure, right? I mean, now if anyone's watching, I'm like, fucking watch it, watch more, and whatever. No, the point I'm trying to make is like, I don't know, I would just wish first the realization should come, and then the action should follow. And it's like that's exactly why I'm like I'm so hesitant to call myself a feminist, because when I call myself a feminist, am I a Twitter feminist? Am I a feminist in real life? I question that
Yeah.
myself, right? And then it's a work in progress.
And also, you need to question why it is important for people to know that you're a feminist. Why is it important?
Yeah, exactly. It's not important. And
Just do the right thing. Just do the decent thing. You don't
just
even have to center yourself and make sure that you're that one man in the room who's exceptional, right?
just yeah, go under the radar like most of the women do in our
Yeah,
society.
just be quiet and
Exactly.
just it
Under the
just
radar.
yeah.
That's a good note to end this podcast. Thank you very much,
Which is
Ramya.
ironic
Yeah.
given that it's a podcast.
you
It's
know,
fine.
that is a good note to end it. Be under the radar, men. And thank you very much, Ramya,
Be
for
quiet
joining to
and
this podcast. Thank
yeah,
you very much,
thank
listeners, for
you.
tuning in. Go watch the movie, and I hope
It's on Me
inspire.
Stream. It costs about 150
Sure,
rupees.
sure. I hope it gives you some realization. I hope you have that Buddha-like moment under the tree, but more like on your couch while you're watching this. On that note, see you next time with another episode. Bye, everyone.